Welcome back to another episode of Neuroscience Digest powered by my BrainWise coach. I am Bastian.
And I'm Phil Dixon.
And we are extremely excited that you have joined us on another episode of where we go through some of the research or some of the papers and articles that have been coming out in this field of neuroscience over the last number of weeks. And Phil, who is our resident researcher, helps us to understand what is happening and make sense of some of the new findings that are going on in the field of neuroscience. Phil, take it away.
About a week or so ago, I suddenly realized how many pieces of terminology were coming across my desk that probably 2 years ago weren't even words. And two of them we're going to talk about today. One is doomscrolling, and the other is cyberchondria.
Interesting. Now, I've heard of doomscrolling, but cyberchondria I've not heard of.
And that was new to me as well. So we're going to dig into both of them today.
Okay.
So how does it, why are we interested? Doomscrolling is actually, it's bad news and addictive. I just give you the definition of what, from a neuroscience point of view. I'm going to be reading some of this. Doomscrolling hijacks threat and reward circuits, raising stress hormones, degrades attention, degrades sleep, and degrades emotional regulation. Those are three bad things, right?
Right.
Breaking the habit requires targeted behavioral and environmental changes. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about what is doom scrolling, what it's doing to the brain, and then on a different paper that I found, I'll talk about some of the things that you can do to actually get out of the habit and scrolling so much. Does that sound like a worthwhile spending of 15 minutes?
Oh, I definitely think so, because doom scrolling has become a much larger topic these days because of social media and the algorithms that the social media platforms use to engage their followers and engage the viewers that are on those platforms. They don't keep you on for hours, just continuing to feed you stuff that you're interested in. It's fascinating to watch it.
It is fascinating. And what's happening in there is it immediately activates the amygdala. And that's, again, we've talked about the amygdala. It's in the limbic system. It's the center of the, if you like, the emotional brain. It's the center of, oh my God, we're all going to die. And they know that once that stress response is triggered off, then the prefrontal cortex has actually less control, therefore less ability to go, no, I don't want to go down that track, which means you go down the track some more and it becomes a vicious circle. That's the addictive cycle, basically. And it says, over time, this pattern conditions the brain to treat news feeds as a source of danger, keeping the body in a heightened state of arousal that undermines calmness and recovery. Right. Gradually, your brain gets used to it, saying, yes, this is a danger, therefore I need to pay attention to it, and it's more and more difficult to get out of the cycle.
Wow.
And I tell you, I don't know this to be true, but I imagine there are people in some of these social media organizations that actually are at least as knowledgeable about neuroscience as we are, and playing against that when they build the algorithms.
100%.
How can we structure the words and what the people are receiving so that we keep their eyeballs engaged?
100%. I mean, especially with TikTok, as TikTok came out in 2020, right around COVID. I think it was out before then, but it certainly became way more popular during the COVID time because people had more time on their hands. I believe other social media platforms have followed suit in some of the features that they offer in relation to what TikTok has done. It measures the length of time that you engage with a video and what you're watching. If you are liking something, if you scroll right past it, it'll then feed you other stuff that relates to it and test where you at in your scrolling practice right now and then give you something that else is related. It's amazing. I like sourdough and baking TikTok, which is probably not activating my threat response, but more of my reward system because I'm enjoying it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And oh, that's fascinating. But I'll watch for 30 or 45 minutes. And all I've watched are these small cottage bakers making different stuff. It's actually how I got into my sourdough journey last year in January, was I kept watching it, Phil. And it didn't come, by the way, it also is seasonality too, because over the summer, I didn't watch as much sourdough because who's baking in the summertime? It's too damn hot. So you do it in the wintertime. Guess what came on my TikTok? And I ended up making my own sourdough starter. And now I've baked, I don't know how many hundreds of sourdough loaves, all because of TikTok.
So that's a great segue into, I'll read the next paragraph from this paper. Paradoxically, the same habit also taps the brain's reward circuitry, is exactly what you're saying. Yep. Intermittent novel updates and social cues produce small dopamine surges that reinforce that checking behavior. Feedback loop of curiosity and anxiety, the two of them, curiosity and anxiety, that is hard to interrupt.
Wow.
That dopamine-driven novelty loop explains why people continue scrolling despite feeling worse afterward. The brain seeks the next unpredictable hit of information. So you've got the negativity side of it going, we're all in danger, we're all going to die and we're curious about that nice little hit of excitement we're going to get. And so you've got both of those processes going on at the same time, both of which are addictive.
Oh, totally.
Sustained doom scrolling fragments attention and overloads working memory, impairs the prefrontal cortex functions responsible for planning, inhibition, and sustained focus. It's very difficult to get out. Frequent context switching between alarming headlines and other tasks reduces cognitive bandwidth, makes it harder to complete complex work, regulate emotions, and resist further compulsive check-in.
Right.
So it's not good stuff.
No.
And it's doing bad things for your emotion, your physiology, your sleep, your circadian rhythm, and recovering from all this process.
A deterrent from genuine connection with other people, too. It creates the inability for people to, at least in the moment, and probably for a period of time after, to really connect with whoever is in the room with them or in the room with someone else.
So it says prolonged engagement can amplify rumination, and we'll come back to rumination in a moment, and catastrophizing tendencies. So after a period of time, we start to actually build up. First of all, rumination is thinking about the same thing again and again. And we have a thing called the default network in the brain, which is what gets turned on when you're ruminating. What it tends to do is focus on the negative future or the negative past. And that's what we ruminate about. Oh my God, what could happen? And oh my God, what did I do wrong? Or things in the past. Leads to increased anxiety and depression symptoms. Physiologically, chronic activation of stress pathways disrupts sleep architecture, metabolic regulation, and in turn worsens mood and cognitive resilience. Mm-hmm. Now, so I don't know whether there's anything else that actually has such a bad impact on what we're doing, and yet we actually do it supposedly voluntarily.
Oh, doom scrolling is 100% voluntary. There's probably now, to some degree, an addiction that those of us who do get on social media quite a bit have to going on and watching, but it's dead to choice. We're doing it in 100% on our own.
Yeah. And it talks about doom scrolling is bad in general. I'll read you this other paragraph. Late night doom scrolling is particularly harmful. Screen light and emotional arousal delay melatonin onset and fragment sleep. Reduces slow wave REM sleep, which are both essential for emotional processing and memory consolidation. So you are not going to be as emotionally calm, and you're not going to have as good memory. Poor sleep then feeds back into a greater emotional reactivity and reduced impulse control, making it harder to resist the next doom scrolling episode.
It's amazing. And as I'm sitting here thinking, I can almost see some of our BrainWise friends going, and one of the pieces that I'm latching on to is, so does that mean that, is that a reason as to why someone in our life, whether it's your spouse, a friend, or whatever, that they do a lot of doom scrolling and then they can't remember certain types of events, or they can't put all the pieces together because they're spending more time on that? Maybe a fascinating study for our BrainWise friends to do and report back to us, Phil, in the chat, what their experience is with doom scrolling, either for themselves or their observations of others around them. Because I can think of myself. There are some individuals who doom scroll more than frequently than I do. And my memory is not as good as it probably could be, but it's definitely better than theirs.
So that's the bad side. And I think we've talked about this before, but if you look at aspirin adverts or any of the pain adverts, they will paint the bad picture, give you the solution, and paint the good picture.
Right.
And we aren't going to spend a lot of time on the good picture, but I will give you a couple of suggested hints on if you are a chronic doom scroller, you might want to think of getting out of it. And that in and of itself takes a conscious decision. So if you turn around and say yes, and we're coming up to the resolutions, maybe a New Year's resolution will be cut my doom scrolling by 75%.
Right.
Short term, first of all, set yourself some strict limits. Most iPhones and iPads and things like that, or mobile phones, have timers on them. So if you are going to go and do some news searching, set yourself a timer that will ping off in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Pretty simple to do. And it just at least gives you a reminder to get out of it. And it doesn't guarantee you're going to get out of it, but it gives you a reminder to do. Put filters on place. If you just want to look at the news, there's more and more of the browsers are actually having where you can actually put a filter. So if something comes up about something that causes you angst, then put a filter in it so it doesn't come through. Those two make sense?
They do make sense. I have a follow-up question for us to ponder on and maybe ask for some thoughts from our BrainWise friends, but let's keep going with our solutions.
So that's the thing you can do short term. Longer, medium term, it's a habit loop. And so if you find yourself getting into that habit at 8 o'clock in the morning or just before lunch or in your afternoon break or whenever it might be, find another habit that replaces it with a healthier reward. Or turn around and say, look, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take 5 minutes to check the headlines because I really want to know what's going on. But then I'm going to take a 15-minute walk outside. Or I'm going to go and do my hobby for 15 minutes. Or I'm going to write my journal or come up with something that replaces it explicitly rather than just create an absence. Put something specific in its place.
Okay, very good. Going out for a walk maybe, or talking to a friend or something like that.
Yeah, or phone up your spouse and say, I'm on my 15-minute, I'd rather talk to you than do doom scrolling. There's lots of different things that you can do. But rather than say, I'm just not going to do it, it's actually better for us to say, and I'm going to replace it with X and time bind it all. In the long term, there's other things you can do. So you put in place, how do I get back to regular sleep? What you're trying to do is bring back the ability of that prefrontal cortex to actually inhibit you and bring you back under control. So long-term sleep, meditation, mindfulness, consider downloading. There are tools available for the iPhone, etc., that actually can help you think through reconstructing your thinking and your brain. And then just put in place some filters that actually turn around and say, no, let's not engage in that news search outside of these hours. Give yourself just very specific hours and limit your time on it.
Very interesting. And one of the things, Phil, that is a follow-up question, but I think I have an answer here too, is as you were talking about it, I think, and this might be for a lot of our BrainWise friends too, there may be a misunderstanding as to what classifies as doom scrolling. Because my example of looking on TikTok at sourdough, by definition of doom scrolling it's probably still not good in any sense in terms of what I'm doing. But doom scrolling, based off what I'm reading, is the compulsive habit of endlessly consuming negative, upsetting, or catastrophic news and content online, often through social media, leading to, like you said, increased anxiety, stress, and hopelessness. And so me watching how to make sourdough and bake cake, that doesn't classify as doom scrolling. So I think it was a good bifurcation there to understand the differences.
Yeah, yours is just an addiction.
Not great. Not any better in terms of I probably shouldn't be watching as much of it, but because I was thinking, I'm like, as we were talking about it, another thing might be is, okay, if you feel like you want to get online and look at something, look for something positive instead of looking for something negative. And maybe if you are someone who looks, and I don't look at the news headlines that often, I look for a very brief period of time because I can't change it. Number one. Number two, it's not worth my time. I would rather look at sourdough and baking and all that other kind of stuff. But maybe we should look at, if you're going to get on, search for something positive and spend that 5-10 minutes that you're allowing yourself to look at positive things versus spending time reading through and watching all of this stuff that just is like the world is going to end. And it's just unfortunately unhopeful.
Yeah. And that leads us to the second half. There's a lot of overlap between negative doom scrolling and cyberchondria. So I'll read what the definition of cyberchondria is, and it's not unlike what you just read.
Really quick, really fast, Phil. Can I ask you a question before you read that? Is this for episode 2 of the digest?
I was going to actually keep it as part of this, but
as a part of this one? Okay, perfect.
It'll be about like a 5-minute wrap up of it.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't meant to be separate.
No.
Okay.
Cyberchondria is repeated or excessive online searching for health information that provokes or amplifies health anxiety. So it's got if it was a Venn diagram, there's an overlap with doom scrolling. But this is specifically around doom scrolling, around how it's the old hypochondriac online.
Oh, 100%. People will, if you Google any of your symptoms, 2 or 3 things together, the first thing it always says is you're either going to die or
right.
Which neither are good things. But 9 out of 10 times, while you may be correctly explaining your symptoms, there are 1,000 things that it could possibly be. And you need to be talking to a health professional to be able to make that decision.
And it says the second part of this, it often produces compulsive checking, distress, and functional impairment. Rather, if you want to go online to just find out what's going on, then you, first of all, use a couple of reputable websites. Don't go into the generic question set. And be careful about how much time you spend. Now, I have to admit, some 5 years back, I couldn't sleep at night because I had some horrible things going on. And I went online and I found out that we predicted that I was actually having a heart attack. And it was correct. I was.
Wow.
So,
not amazing that you had a heart attack, but amazing that it was able to predict that.
Yeah.
Things are still here.
Yeah, that's another whole story to talk about.
Right.
But it has a parallel set of equivalently bad things than what we just described on doom scrolling. So we won't go into all of that again. I just summarize it with just one line. It says you're going to have higher health anxiety, greater intolerance of uncertainty, and more compulsive information-seeking behaviors. So again, we've got that reinforcement, addictive loop. Your brain is going, not only are we all going to die, but we're orienting it towards our health, which would lead to our death. And so our brain gets reinforced with both the dopamine and the cortisol behaviors. Again, be very careful. Set a time limit. Find out from your health practitioner what are the 2 or 3 websites that they would recommend. And so just be able to look at what's the credibility of the information you're getting. How do how can you set some limits on the search so you don't go down the rabbit holes? Turn around and say, once you've got to a certain point, if you've reached a conclusion, check in with your health provider.
100%. I think that's probably the most crucial part of the advice is we have health professionals that have studied things for a reason. And if you're uncomfortable, if yours isn't working out for you, then switch healthcare professionals. But I think it's a dangerous slope. The internet has expanded our abilities to do many things in both positive ways and then obviously negative ways. In this particular instance, I think it can be a really delicate balance because every medication is going to tell you that there is some possible side effect of X, right? Because they have to legally describe any possible side effects that have happened, but whether it's statistically relevant for people who are actually taking the medication or not. And then the consequences on the other side, but it's not just for not taking it are probably just as severe or if not more, but then on the other side, it's not just related to medication, it's just all things related to healthcare in and of itself. It's best to talk to your healthcare providers, your healthcare professionals. If you feel like they're not giving you the best advice, find a new one. But to solely rely on information that's found online related to your health and then make decisions based on that without consulting with your healthcare practitioner about all of the various consequences is a dangerous slope. And then not only is it dangerous in that way, but like you said, it increases anxiety, it increases stress, which is going to cause other health implications along that journey. So I think it's a very important, delicate balance. And I'm one thing happens, I make a mountain out of a molehill, and oh gosh, this is the worst thing that's going to happen. And online does not make it any better. I was having some trouble with coughing and breathing a couple of years ago. At the same time, I was a smoker, which the two went together one on one. I was doing all of this searching, and of course, everyone, oh, you're going to die. You got this, you've got that. And I spent 2 weeks between having some tests ran and when I actually got the results in just like being paralyzed, which was just ridiculous. But if I didn't go and do all of the searching, I wouldn't have been as paralyzed because I would have not known. I just would have been waiting like you would have 30, 40 years ago before the internet was a big deal. So I just think it's really interesting and it has to be delicately managed because it can cause a lot of problems.
I'm focusing much on the neuroscience of it, but yes, we've got a lot of other things going on. But anyway, so just to summarize, doom scrolling has got lots of bad parts to it. And if you now turn around and focus it down to doom scrolling about your health, it's called cyberchondria. A new term for you today.
It's new for me. I'm sure it's new for our BrainWise friends too, because I had not heard it before.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very good. I think it's a great discussion, and it's certainly something that is right on time with kind of everything that's going on in the world, because it seems there's probably more negative news information and negative things happening than there are positive, but it's not entirely true. There are positive things happening, and unfortunately, we just have to go intentionally searching for them. So I think that's another good little tidbit is if you're going to go search intentionally for the good things that are happening in the world, right, or in your community, because there are a lot of good things that are going on simultaneously to some of the more unfortunate experiences. But with that, we will talk to you again next week when we go through another Neuroscience Digest episode. And until then, stay curious, stay compassionate, and always stay BrainWise.
BrainWise.